First question I want to ask you is what role has BBI JU played in supporting the bioeconomy in recent years?
Yes, several roles, and when we talk about several years, but it is since the inception of the initiative, which was in 2014, so only 6 years ago. So creation 2014, but the real start and the first goal, really the first result, is since 5 years. So the main important things that have been achieved, and it was an objective, an initial objective, a very challenging one from BBI, was to de-risk investment and keep investment in Europe, but maybe also try to attract investment from outside Europe. And there I can really say that it is a success. We have a lot of very good cases. And only looking at a big membership, we see now a lot of companies located outside Europe now joining BIC and the BBI initiative. A second achievement, which is very important for the sector, is the huge opportunity offered to SME. You know that 40% of our beneficiaries are SME. It's a real achievement, but that's also key for the sector because SME are very often the technology, the science, the out-of-the-box thinking provider needed in a project, and not necessarily large companies can have access to that. So via the BBI project, we offer them the opportunity to access to the market and to scale up their technology. Another achievement, which was not so visible at the beginning, it is also the participation of universities and research centers. Again, just one statistic, 30% of the beneficiary are academia and research center, which is huge, because let's not forget that the BBI JU is an industry-driven initiative. But what we see also, based on a survey we did for project, is that 80% of the project report that they contribute to improve the relationship and collaboration between universities and companies. And maybe a few others which are more the consequence of this is really the structuration and the organization of the sector and of the value chain. We all know that one of the characteristics of the bio-based sector is that it is not really yet a sector. It is very fragmented. And last also, and you know that very well, you work on a daily basis on this point, it is creating awareness about the sector, awareness towards a wide range of stakeholders, but in particular from policymakers. We are not there yet. We know we still have a lot of effort to do, but looking back where we were 5 years ago, the progress is huge. I think now everybody understands what bio-based sector is, understand the challenge, understand the contribution to the Green Deal and green recovery. So we improve a lot, but I repeat, we are not there yet. So voilà, that would be for me the main achievement in terms of result, but also in terms of impact.
Okay, so more or less you already answered to my second question, that is, what are the most interesting impacts obtained by BBI JU? So more or less you cover.
Maybe I could add a comment if you allow me, because when we talk about impact, the main expected impact of the BBI JU was socioeconomic impact. Environmental impact was mentioned, but not concretely as an objective. We can certainly come back to it because it will be a key objective of the successor of the BBI, but we can talk about that later. But just socioeconomic and environmental impact, socioeconomic impact, is very important, because I remember when I joined the initiative, it was where we were extremely challenged, all of us, not only BBI, but also BIC, because we had an objective which was to fund 5 flagship biorefinery projects by the end of the initiative. Today, we are not yet at the end of the initiative, but we have already the double. And it was really challenging because at that time we all agreed that the Europe was very good in terms of science and technology development in Europe. But when it was about investment, in a lot of cases, investment were done outside Europe. And we wanted to contribute to change that. And I think that with the flagship, we really contributed to change that, because we have today 10 and soon 11 flagship biorefinery in the project. And they will generate more than 1 billion of investment for a bit more than 200 million euro, and they will create more than 3,000 direct jobs. And what is very important is that they are first of the kind, meaning that they're also selected for the high capacity of replication. So once it is a success, we expect to have, let's say, sisters and brothers. And we know that for some of the flagship ongoing, there are already license agreement signed to build other biorefineries in Europe. So for me, that's a very important achievement. And that's certainly one of the main reasons why BBI and its successor are really a key contributor to the Green Deal, and will certainly be a key contributor to the Green Recovery Plan.
Okay, so these are the success, but what are the challenges that should be still addressed in order to really facilitate the bio-based economy uptake?
I will open my heart by saying continuity. It is months and months that we discuss with policymakers, key decision makers, about the successor of the BBI. And sometimes the discussion was a bit difficult, because the discussion was not about explaining the success and explaining why it is important, but it was to convince about the need to continue and the change that needs to be done. So the final decision, as you know, is not taken yet. But continuity is very essential, because it is still a risky sector to invest in. There are still a lot of improvement to be done in terms of regulation and supportive policy, but also in terms of communication and education. And probably also, certainly also, a lot of effort in terms of circularity, sustainability of sourcing of the feedstock, but also contribution to maintain ecosystem and biodiversity. That will be key challenges for the successor of the BBI. And on this, it is really to reassure that the sector indeed is not only about creating competitiveness, job and investment, but it's also a way to really address climate mitigation and all the pressure of environment and resources. So it was a challenge at the beginning, but it's much more challenge again now in 2020.
Okay. And so what should be done to drive the transition to a more sustainable post-COVID-19 society? I mean, it's an opportunity. We should grab it. So what to do?
I really love the declarations of Ursula von der Leyen about a Green Deal, green recovery. So if I may say, now walk the talk. I mean, boost green investment, priority to green investment, and stop as much as possible investing in the non-sustainable fossil-based value chain. You know that a vast majority of oil and gas extracted from the soil is burned to produce energy. I think it is 80 to 90% of it. And today there are solutions which are not bio-based solutions to produce energy. It is called photovoltaic or wind. And today they are cheaper than fossil-based production, but they will request storage infrastructure, network infrastructure, and we need investment there so that we stop the dependency of fossil-based. And now, where is the role of the bio-based industry? But the main role is where carbon is absolutely needed. and carbon. It's absolutely needed to produce food and feed. Good luck to produce food and feed without carbon. That's the basic of chemistry. But a lot of product, building material, textile, absolutely need carbon as well. And that's where the bio-based solution will replace the fossil-based solution.
Okay, so last question, we already touched it a little bit. So how BBI JU will evolve in the next framework program? What will be the novelty for all of us?
So under the next framework contract, it will not be BBI JU because BBI JU is only for Horizon 2020. For Horizon Europe, the successor is named CBE, Circular Bio-Based Europe. So the letter C is very important because a big change as compared to BBI is the circularity, which cannot be everywhere because not all value chain can be circular. Just for example, the food chain, for example, it is a pure linear value chain, but it can be perfectly sustainable. Where we are today is that the negotiation between Commission, BIC is done. The CIRA overall strategic innovation and research agenda is overall finalized. We discussed under an envelope of 1 billion euros, so similar to BBI number one. But we still wait for a green light from the Commission, which is expected in September, so in a few weeks from now, with what regard the format of the partnership, the confirmation that it will be a joint undertaking, which is very important because the joint undertaking is the solution, the format that enables the highest impact, the highest mobilization effect, and the highest structuration effect needed. What will be the changes now as compared to BBI? So everything which works will continue, flagship, de-risking investments. I will not go into the detail, but we want to have now clear objective around the contribution on the safeguard of ecosystem and contribution to biodiversity. Clear objective, clear indicator. We want also to mobilize more at regional level because we know that the deployment of this industry need to pass via the regional authorities. And we want also to have more mobilization of the primary sector and in particular farmers in order to avoid something which is happening now in the current BBI, is that the farmers are an essential segment of the value chain because they occupy the first segment, but too often we have the feeling that they fall more into a role of supplier and not a co-actor of the value chain. And we want to change that, meaning that they will be also part of the governance. So these are the main changes, and if everything goes well, and we hope that everything will go well, legally speaking, the new entity will be created in 2021 in order to implement the first call of CBE, which will be already in 2021, but probably later in the year for a reason of organization. So the preparatory work can be done by the current BBI, but the implementation as such has to be done by a CBE. And of course, all the resource, all the organization of the current BBI will be transferred to the new CBE. And I forgot a very important element. Of course, the private partner remain big, but big with the ambition also to have some transformation. There I cannot speak on behalf of my colleague and friend Dirk Carré. I will leave him announce the changes, but one of the change which is very important is to continue to widen the membership of BIC in order to have a very good coverage of all the segments and all the countries covered by the initiative. So we expect to have some very, very busy months after the summer break to prepare all this.
Sure. Okay. So thanks a lot. I think it was very interesting. So we are all ready for the next, for the future of this important joint undertaking. And so thanks a lot for your work and for your strong contribution in BBI, in the bioeconomy and the bio-based economy.